This is a fist. For us, it's a sign of strength, power, self-defense. But in Russian culture, this thing has a very dark history. When the USSR decided to abolish the ownership of private property, this was done with a massive psyops campaign convincing people it's for their own good. And while a lot actually bought into the idea, obviously, people who had nice things, well, not everybody were excited about giving it up. And those people were initially shamed and were called kulak. Kulak means fist. It means you're too cheap to donate to the greater good. Of course, those who the shame campaign did not work on actually had to be physically encouraged to give up their stuff, if you understand my meaning. But the term kulak was so shameful, it was so disgusting, that it became this stigma. Nobody wanted to be a kulak. You don't want to take more than you need. That's the whole principle of communism, right? Now, why am I talking about communism and kulaki and about all this Russian history stuff? Well, the reason is that we're talking here about Elon Musk. Elon Musk just came out of the courtroom in Delaware where a US judge ruled that he just got too much money to justify such a big payment structure. Yes, I'm not even kidding you. A US judge literally said that this man is too rich and his salary is too high. And that happened in the United States, not in Soviet Russia, not in the USSR, not in China. It happened on US soil. Now, allow me to put this a little bit in context here. You see, Elon Musk is the most creative, most successful entrepreneur we have seen in our lifetime. A lot of people compare them to Howard Hughes, but I think he surpassed him because Howard Hughes did not change the way we live, did not change the way we consume energy, did not change the way we go to space. Neuralink just implanted a chip in a human being. Elon Musk has achieved so much in his lifetime as an innovator, as an inventor, as an entrepreneur. We have never seen anything like this. He's literally the most successful guy we have ever seen. And about 6 years ago, in 2018, he decided to bet completely, 100% all in on himself. If you ever shared a table with a poker player who just went all in on one single hand, and you thought to yourself, well, who's this crazy mother lover? Well, that's the guy. He just did it. So he took the riskiest payment structure we have ever seen a CEO take in the history of corporate America. And he bet on himself entirely, completely. The gist of this payment structure was that either Tesla does the impossible and completely blasts through any sort of normal expectations of company growth, or Elon doesn't get paid at all. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Kaput. And he took it. And of course, 80% of the shareholders of Tesla approved this because who would be insane enough to gamble 6 years of salaries as the CEO for the success of a company? And not just the success of a company, but the complete bat out of hell, cataclysmic, insane, out of the stratosphere explosion of a company. Who would say to themselves, I'm crazy enough to do this? And now we're sitting here 6 years later when he literally hit every single mark of this insane, mad professor plan he took on himself. And some. The company is now 800% more valuable than it was when this agreement was signed. There's not a single shareholder who voted for this plan in 2018 who regrets it. 800% return in 6 years? That's a great deal. Now, I admit this was not a typical standard CEO payment structure. 100%. But I also admit that Elon Musk is not a typical standard guy. He's not a typical standard CEO. That's why he gets this thing done. The man literally bet on himself to do the impossible. Something that has not been done in decades. Many decades. Start a brand new car company and make it number one. And nevertheless, here we are with Tesla selling 2 million vehicles per year, with 800% return on the stock since that day, with the best margins in the auto industry, leaving the entire auto industry in the dust. And yet, somehow Elon Musk found himself in front of a judge in Delaware defending this agreement retroactively 6 years later and losing. Now, that judge said that he was the richest man on the planet and that his agreement was not fair. Now, I'm going to assume here that most of you did not read the full 200-page ruling on this case. In fact, most people haven't, and that's fine. And I'm going to give you the executive summary here. And although this ruling was all about the technicals, the procedures, the gist of it was this was not fair, that he was too rich. It literally is stated verbatim. Is this fair for the richest man in the world to get this much money? This was stated. Among the 200 pages of procedural argument, this was the truth. This was the one thing that you can distill the decision to. Now, the saddest part about this whole thing is that Elon Musk's payment plan is not going to change. He's not going to get paid less. They'll redo the plan, revote it, rewrite it, rephrase it so that procedurally it passes the test that the judge laid out. Or they'll go and incorporate it in a different state. Whatever the case may be, he's going to get paid exactly what the deal says. And there's nothing this judge can do about it. But what happened here is that this judge just screwed not just the state of Delaware, but the entire US legal system. And that's the saddest part. If a court of law in the state of Delaware just told you, hey, despite the fact that this was approved by 80% of your shareholders, I'm going to overturn this because it doesn't seem fair. How much loss of business will the state of Delaware absorb because of this court ruling? How much uncertainty, how much risk, how much lack of clarity and lack of transparency this introduces to the whole Delaware incorporation system? A lot of it has to do with the ease of the Chancery Court and the speed of the Chancery Court. Delaware will suffer from this, not Elon Musk. And I'd argue it's even bigger than this. Look, the whole concept of America, when you distill it to the most basic principle, it's freedom of decision, freedom of choice. Freedom of choice of religion, freedom of choice where to go to school, which language to speak, what to think, what to say. But at the end of the day, freedom of choice is the building blocks of the US system. If you have a court of law that takes this away on the account of somebody being too rich, of his payment being too high, and the structure of the way he gets paid is unfair, this has no place in the United States of America. Have a great weekend.